Okay, there is as many different experiences of inner peace as there are people. And there is as many different experiences of inner peace as there are experiences. The first thing I want you to understand is that inner peace is not something that you hold on to and just feel like you have to kind of clutch it and protect it from anything else that's going to destroy it. If anything, that actually puts more anxiety and more rigidity into your experience. It makes it also feel more fragile, as if you have to protect it from being broken. However, on the other hand, because all of us have experienced abuse and trauma, we do realize that those inner peace moments do feel very precious, and we do want to guard them. But more importantly, I think we want to know we have the power to create inner peace. That's really what the process is if I'm in a moment and I feel like I need some inner peace, I want to know that I know how to create the inner peace. And I think that's where the power is, not into holding it on and not into guarding it, but to be able to know that we can move into inner peace, or we can mobilize inner peace to be part of who we are. On the Facebook group, Abuse and Trauma Recovery Group, I do have something that's posted that's a comic strip, and it's basically about an individual who realizes that since we spend so much time into our own interior space, that's where we better have the best dialogues with ourselves. And when our memories and our horrors and our nightmares, our flashbacks, our involuntary horrific imaginings compiling in and kidnapping our moment, that becomes an experience that can completely own us. Right? We understand that. There's no judgment in that. But at the same time, we want to own the moment back as soon as we're ready to. Now, sometimes we have to go through the experiences of those horrible thoughts and feelings and memories and physiological responses. Sometimes we need to go through it and get to the other end of it. But other times we also need to have the power to be able to stop it in its tracks, just to stop it, to make it not happen in that moment. And it's when we can reclaim our moment, one of the 12 R's, when we can reclaim our moment and own it the way we want to. If that means we want to feel sad, we feel sad. If we want to cry, we cry. If it means we want to become proactive and help somebody else in that moment, that's what we do. If it means that we need to go talk to someone and spill our heart out and remember the narratives of what we went through, then that's what we do. But we also want to be able to know that we can create feelings of happiness or joy or reverie, a spiritual connection, ascension, transcendence, and inner peace is part of that. Can we create our inner peace? And so in my book, Own Your Inner Peace, KISS Method for Inner Peaceful Living, there are well over 100 different techniques for being able to shift through different types of inner peace. So right now what I want you to do is to contemplate the various types of inner peace that you can even imagine experiencing. I'm just going to name things and let whatever comes to your mind come to your mind. Okay, an inner peace could be watching the waves of an ocean. An inner peace could be watching a hawk fly in the sky. An inner peace could be hearing the sounds of doves cooing in the background. An inner peace could be just envisioning some beautiful colors. An inner peace could be just a satisfaction of fullness at the end of a delicious meal. An inner peace could be everybody else is quiet and asleep and we have privacy to ourselves. For some, an inner peace is being in the dark of a room that's cool and comfortable. And for others, inner peace is being in the sweaty jungles that are bright, sunny, and hot and humid. Inner peace for some is jogging and running and boxing and lifting weights and sweating and getting into that experience so completely that you don't even think. For other people, an inner peace is reading a book, listening to a poem, listening to music. Another inner peace may be listening to just a long series of television shows on Netflix that just help you zone out. Those are just a few. I think I mentioned maybe 20 different possibilities. Now, an inner peace is something that can be summoned by you, and that's actually the second level of inner peace. So the way I break it up in my book, Own Your Peace, KISS Method for Inner Peaceful Living, is that the first level are those serendipitous moments, those moments that just come to you spontaneously. You have to make yourself create the room to be present when those inner peaceful moments just happen to occur. So you become an observer, you become a receiver, you become ready for them to cross your path. There'll be plenty of moments where inner peace is not available to you. But are you going to be able to pause when you go, oh, there's a moment of inner peace? And that's what you want to be able to create, the sensitivity to tune when something around you has created what potentially could stir inner peace for you. So I call those serendipitous moments, serendipitous inner peace. They just happen. You are, we could talk about coincidence and the universe providing for you, and there's no such thing as coincidence, but we're going to call them coincidental to whatever it is you're in the process of doing. So, for example, I was driving home from work. I was tired, although I love my work. My mind was happy. My body was tired. And I was waiting at a crosswalk, and there was an individual walking with a smile across her face. That didn't seem so odd to say to you, right? But think how many people actually, when they're walking, they're smiling. However, she had a crippled arm and was limping, and she had a smile across her face. And I knew that I was being given this gift to appreciate my whole body and how it functions with its various aches and crippling moments, and that I too can put a smile on my face and be grateful for this woman who put a smile on my face, and wish her the best, sending her love and energy and Reiki, and we can talk more about energy work and healing, kind of like my own blessing to her, because I so appreciated that she had a smile when a lot of people would feel really vexed by their own complications. Clearly, her life had not been and is not easy. Clearly, she still can find some cheer, something that makes her smile. And definitely, that made me smile. So that's called a serendipitous moment. It's just something that you receive, you're ready for. Now, I could have been grumpy and tired and irritated at the red light, and tired that someone was in my way so I couldn't move my car forward if that's the way the traffic was going to be, or hungry because I hadn't eaten. I could have been in all sorts of different states, and all of them would be authentic. But the one that I'm going to choose to receive is also the one that I'm choosing to create. But that's what the trick is about serendipitous moments, is because it's not that you're actually making it happen, which is level 2, but level 1 is you're actually making yourself available when those moments do happen. The serendipitous moments. Now, in all of our lives, regardless of how horrible they are, there are moments like that. The sound of a child laughing for a second, the meow or purr of a cat, a dog barking energetically because they have energy. And while we're walking around in our glum, those birds on the trees are still chirping. Don't you think it's really odd? Someone dies and the people close are so sad. The world feels dark and dim, and as if it should just stop, and that no one should be happy. But then you wake up to the oddness of the sun rising, the blue sky overhead, the puffy white clouds, and the sounds of baby birds chirping in their nests, receiving their worms, the rustling of leaves through the wind in the trees. It's an oxymoron. It doesn't fit. That wonderful, peaceful moment does not fit with the horrible bereavement. In your experience of recovering from abuse and trauma, there are so many things that do not fit with your abuse and trauma. There's so many things that went on without you that were happy, fine, peaceful, loving, good, and healthy. It wasn't your predominant experience while you're in the middle of that abuse or that trauma. But they were happening, oddly, nonetheless, simultaneously. And now also, as you are in the midst of the storm of abuse and trauma, you begin to realize that, wow, this moment where the storm and darkness is inside my head, outside, if I just take a moment, I can see all sorts of things that are very different than this darkness, this bleakness, this cruelty that I've experienced, and now my memories are causing to be erected yet again. And is that merely a beautiful color? Is that a little act of kindness over there in the corner? Is there something comical that went on over there? What is it that's available for you that gets you out of your own interior darkness into just a moment of appreciating what's there? And whatever is there is serendipitous. It's just there. You know, we could talk about it's more that there's no such thing as coincidence, and everything's planned and available for you, and that there are angels and spirits and supports that are there to help you in the ethereal aspects of life. And I've written a book, or many books about it, one of which is The Spiritual Paths for Successful Life. Another one is Your Soaring Phoenix. These are wonderful understandings of what's available on an ethereal spiritual level that we can tie right down to our concrete physical life. But way before we get to the spiritual or soulful domains, in our own physical world, simultaneously, to our horror, there's something somewhere that has something that's to be appreciated. It's bizarre. One of the things I do want to make a caveat for at this moment, though, is that when people are in the middle of their abuse and trauma, they often will survive, endure, because they can find a kernel of something that helps their soul go through it. Those moments are good, and you can retrieve those good moments and allow them to be honored on your sanctuary, on your temple of memories that helped you survive and endure. These are very common in stories from soldiers, individuals missing in action, people who have been kidnapped and tortured, individuals that have suffered domestic violence, children who were sexually abused. They can retrieve aspects of that portion of their life that has something blissful in it. And it seems odd and dishonoring almost of the abuse and trauma to find anything wonderful in those moments. And yet those moments did exist. And those moments might have been the very fuel that allowed you to get to the moment of your escape and this moment of your recovery. So for this first section, this first class, I want you to really begin to be very tuned in to serendipitous moments, coincidences, little sorts of things that flicker past you that are ready for you to absorb, to respond to notice, and maybe even to act upon. But they're there as an invitation, a gift that says, here, just experience this. Again, I want to repeat. The experiences of emotions are not to be held on, not to be clutched. They are to be allowed to flow in, and then they will flow in the dynamic of life. And that doesn't mean they necessarily flow away from you, but they may change shape in the very process of it. All feelings flow. A lot of people say, I don't want to be happy because it just means I'm going to be disappointed. The happiness will be robbed from me and taken away. So I'm just never going to love. I'm just never going to be happy. Forget this joy. I'd rather live in the slums of sadness and depression and disagreeableness and irritableness, because at least I can control those, and at least they aren't fleeting. And the key there is this. The person has discovered that they can create something for sure. The negatives, they can create the negatives, they can live in the negatives, and that helps them give a sense of control in their life, which is valuable. In the same way, joy, happiness, inner peace, pleasantness, contentment, a resounding sense of reverie, or connectedness to something that's beautiful and beyond us, something that's deep inside us, like our soul or our spirit. Those are also there for us to be able to learn how to control, master, summons, and bring to the forefront, and practice that in the same way that they would practice the negative. And this is very important for you to realize that inner peace becomes a practice. And it has to be practiced over and over again until it becomes big enough and solid enough to be so very present much of the time. But even when you have the ability to control and create inner peace, there's a way in which you allow it to flow. And it's in that flow that you feel it. And feeling is movement. It is the leaf that's on the water that flows in front of you. And unless you grab that leaf just goes on without you. And maybe another leaf where you see a little water bug and they're just flowing with it. They come into your world and out of your world. And you want to be able to feel emotions that are beneficial to you and just honor them in the moment that they're there. Then in some of the other classes on past recovery after abuse and trauma courses, we talk about being able to anchor them in your fingers. And that actually was in course number 5, the last meditation. We as a group will do that again, because I know many of you understand the anchoring process. But again, I want you to realize inner peace can be fleeting because it's flowing. But that doesn't mean that inner peace isn't yours to enjoy in the moment. Another metaphor. So let's just say you like cheesecake. Do you realize that when you're eating something that is very pungent or very full flavored or very rich or very sweet, that the first 2 to 4 bites you can take in the flavor, the texture, and the smells and all the things that make that delicious. But after the 4th bite, and sometimes after the 3rd bite, you are no longer in the reverie of the food. You're wanting to recapture it. Now you're just going to finish the dessert. But if people stayed attentive, they would realize, excuse me, if people wanted to stay attentive, they would realize that that beautiful flavor was temporary. And they didn't have to keep eating it because it was temporary, but they could enjoy the memory. And that memory actually will last longer than the whole dessert. And that's true with almost any emotion. So let's go forward now. We're going to do those exercises as a group. And in the course, you can now go do your meditations after you do your writings and knowledge gain and self-reflection. Okay, here we go.